Good day, everyone. This is Ankit from Acebiz. On Tuesday, 12th May, the federal government hands down its budget, and there's a very real chance that it's going to reshape the tax on every property and share investment in this country. The headline change being modeled is a cut to the 50% capital gains discount, and depending on how it lands, it can quietly cost some of the investors tens of thousands of dollars on their next property sale or share investment sale. In the next few minutes, I'll walk you through exactly what's on the table, what are the numbers behind it, and what should be you doing before the budget night. So what's actually happening? Quick context, none of this is a law yet, but it's not a speculation either. Here is where things actually sit. The Senate Select Committee on CGT discount handed down its final report on 17th March 2026. It's recommended that 50% discount should be wound back on the basis that it skews housing market towards investors and worsens intergenerational equality. In late February, the Australian Financial Review reported that Treasury is actively modeling a reduction from 50% to 33% capital gains discounts. That's the leading options. The Parliamentary Budget Office estimates the discount will cost the federal government around $247 billion in revenue foregone over the next decade. Treasurer Jim has refused to rule it out. He keeps using the phrase intergenerational equality, which in the policy language means this is live. So when we walk into 12th of May, CGT reform is one of the items that's on the desk. Even the property industry lobby, REIA, the Property Council, is publicly bracing for it. Let's discuss how the current law works. Let's start with the rule as of today, because if you can't understand what is happening today, you can't understand what the change is going to be. If you are an individual or a trust and you have held CGT assets such as properties, shares, managed funds for more than 12 months, you get 50% capital gains discount on your taxable income. So if you sell an investment property and make a 200,000 gain, you only pay tax on 100,000 of it. At the top marginal rate, that's roughly $47,000 instead of the $94,000. The discount is worth half the bill. Companies are different. Companies don't get CGT discount at all. They pay tax on 100% of the gain at company's tax rate, which can be 25% or 30% depending on the type of the entity you have. Now hold on to the thought for a matter, because the 50% discount has been there in the law since 1999. When the Harvard government replaced the old indexation system, and outside family home exemption is the single biggest concession in the personal tax system. Now let's discuss what options do we have on the table. There are currently two options that's been talked about. Most often, scenario A, the treasury option, cut the discount rate from 50% to 33%. That's the figure that's been leaked to the AFR, and it's roughly the same amount as a complying super fund gets in accumulation phase. So there's some symmetry to it. Most commentators, RSM, Grant Thornton, they see this is the most likely landing point. Scenario B is the Bill Shorten option. Cut the discount rate from 50% to 25%. That's the Labor 2019 election policy. It's most being pushed by Green and by Senator David as a part of compromise that would only apply to new bills. Let me show you what each one actually cost you in real dollars, because that's where it gets concrete. Now here's a comparison table we are assuming on the top marginal rate of 45% plus a 2% medical levy. Let me now walk through each of the rows that you can see on the screen. Number one is the current law, which states you have got 50% discount. So half the gain is actually taxable. At the top marginal rate, the effective rate is around 24.5%. So on a gain of $100,000, you are paying $24,500 in tax. Now let's move to option number A, which is the proposed scenario. On this, they're saying that the discount rate would be 33%, which means now 67% of the gain is taxable. Same marginal rate, your effective rate jumps from 24.5% to about 32.5%. On the same 100,000 gain again, the tax bill now is going to be 32,200. That's an extra 7,700 on of tax on every $100,000 gain you actually make. Now, if you think that was bad, let's move to option number B, which is 25% discount. Now, 75% of the gain would remain taxable. Effective rate now is 35 and 8%. On the same $100,000 gain, now you'll be paying 35,800. That's about 11,300 more than today. Row 4 is where actually people actually skip past the company's rate. The company does not get any discount. It pays taxes on the full gain. But please note, if it's a base rate entity, then the tax rate is 25%. But if it's not a base rate entity, the tax rate is 30%. So if you compare today, a company pays less tax on than an individual, even in the worst case scenario. Now, with the discount rate changing, there are changes in the structuring conversations that we are having with the client right now. The company option. This is the part most people miss. If the discount rate drops to 25% or 33%, holding the investment assets through a company starts to look attractive just on the tax rate itself. But this matters. There are catches to it as well. Companies don't get the main resident exemption, so this strategy does not work for family homes ever. Getting the cash out of the company is again a bit of an issue. You have to pay yourself a frank dividend. Franking credit would help you, but it only goes so far. And the timing is different as well. If you transfer an existing property into a company, it itself would trigger a CGT event today, plus stamp duty in most states as well. So you can't just shuffle your assets around after the budget night. The company option is actually real, but a structural decision. It's not a quick fix. If you're thinking about it, talk to us before you sign anything. Ideally, before you buy your next asset, not after. The big unknown. The single biggest open question right now is whether the existing assets will be grandfathered. Grandfathering means if you bought your property before the new rules start, you get to keep the 50% discount when you sell your property. This rule would only apply to the new assets that have been bought after this rule has actually come in place. Most expert witnesses to Senate inquiry and most big firms are commenting publicly that they expect grandfathering, but it's not something which is guaranteed. Some commentators don't expect it to happen, and the Greens are pushing for no grandfathering at all. On that basis, grandfathering just locks in investors not into selling. If there's no grandfathering, the discounts drops on the budget night, and the after-tax value of every investment property and long-term share held in portfolio in the country would shift overnight. That's the scenario. You need to be ready for it, even if you don't expect it to happen. Investors' assets through a company starts to look more lucrative on the tax headline alone. So when this rule comes and there's more clarity on what's going to be the discount rate, any property or asset that you buy afterwards, I would suggest you to have a word with your accountant so they can decide what's the best structure for you going forward.